There we go.
So funny how.
All right, we're on.
Okay, now we're
So,
on. Start over. Yeah, I was saying that so I was on the
okay,
mastermind.
hold on one second. Hold on one second. So I'm going to lead you through some questions, and I want you to tell me all the things.
Okay.
Just hang on for one second, so that I can just set it up. So I want to actually start with who you are,
Okay.
right? So,
Okay.
do you want to speak to it a little bit? I mean, I just think you are this fabulous, amazing women speak leader, coach, and all the things. So, maybe if you want to do like a quick little intro,
Yeah.
that would be
So
awesome.
let's see. Who am I? Yeah, I'm a coach. My two kind of like melding together gifts are to be a woman speak coach, where I help women develop their stories and like speak up for themselves, which it's my passion. I love it. And I'm also like a life coach, where I really, it's more of like a spiritual guidance that I do with my clients. So my gift is to create like a safe space for women to tell their stories and to be witnessed in it and heal in that witnessing. And during that process, I channel their spirit through me, just all the questions that their heart and soul actually want them to answer, just get channeled through. And that's part of why I'm such a great woman speak leader, is that process of really deeply listening to the little vibrations of that woman's soul and then reflecting it back to her. It's almost like through my questions and talking, I open this portal for them to fully experience themselves, go deeper into the stories of who they are and the why. It's just a beautiful unfolding. So I
It
just,
is. And it's all about the stories, right?
yes, it's all about the story.
Stories that live within us, right?
Yeah.
All these stories that live within us and often don't get expressed. And
Yes.
just having that guide, and you and I do something similar, but in slightly different areas, right? So
Yeah.
I completely love what you do
Yeah.
and feel aligned with it. And that's why I was super excited to work with you. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about, why this session was important to you. And I know it was a bit of a journey to get there. So I'd love for you to speak about that a little bit, what you were just sharing before we hit the record button, too.
Yeah. So it was a journey. I haven't had pictures taken, oh, it's probably been at least 5 years, if not longer, since I've had, headshots or anything done for my business. And they're not me, they're an old version of me. In the last 5 years, so much transformation has happened in my life and in my just coming into my own authenticity, discovering my sensuality in a new way, and just a lot of growth. And so it was time, but I'm also in the middle of like massive transformation still personally. And I think that's kind of where we were, working together, that I wasn't really ready to do a full brand shoot and really dive into, what is my brand, because I'm still in transition, of figuring that out. I'm like I feel like a kindergartner in that process, and so, but at the same time, the photos from before are so far different that they don't represent me at all. And so I needed this like transitionary period of, here's who I am today, at kind of my most me that I can uncover and show the world as of
Right.
today. And that felt really good. So, that journey to accept that it's okay to not have to be fully ready, but also that there's something to capture now. And I'm really grateful that you pushed me to, to go into like, there's something to capture now. This is still valuable and it's still really powerful experience. So it was just really fun. And then, I thought I was committed, but then once we did our little pre-phone call and I'd showed you what I picked out, which was just so not, like so
Yeah.
not what I, really needed. It was still hiding. It was still on that old spectrum of who I used to be and that comfort zone.
Right, right. So, what was like the biggest fear that you had? Because when I look at you, I see this gorgeous, woman. And sometimes I know, and it's so hard to, talk about this in some ways because we all compare ourselves, right? In some ways to somebody else that may be like XYZ or whatever. And when I look at you and I'm like, this is a gorgeous woman. And this is not like any form of a judgment, but I've seen this with like gorgeous clients too, where
Yeah.
challenges come up and things come up. So, would you speak to that a little bit in
Mm,
terms of what was your
yeah,
challenge? Like,
that's
what
huge.
was your fear?
Even as you said that, it all like crystallized really quickly. So I'll just address it, right? So like growing up, being classically beautiful, right? Because everybody's beautiful, but falling into that classic beauty of what our society says is beautiful, I got a lot of attention as a child, especially then as, going into puberty and having a body that's a woman's body. And so there was a lot of attention that I didn't like to receive from the male gaze as a child. And
Mm.
so a big part of my identity began to be, how do I separate myself from this beauty that I hold in order to feel safe? Right. So it was almost like I was like, yeah, it's great. It's great that I'm pretty. Like, and it really, like, I spent a good part of my life being like, that's an afterthought. Please don't name that as the first thing you see about me.
Mm.
Right. It actually became like, I want to distinguish myself from people saying I'm pretty because that's all I got as a child. And I didn't want that to define me, because there's a lot of also social yuckiness that comes from that. Like, you get privileges that you don't always want, you get attention you don't always want. And so part of my journey has been to reclaim it and integrate my beauty and feel comfortable being embodied in it, and like not distancing myself from it, and accepting the attention I'll get, but knowing that I have the capacity to create boundaries around it now. Right, like now I can hold that beauty. And like after, like walking places, I always had to have this like barrier around me. Like, I don't want the attention to come in, I don't want to see it, I don't even want to know that people are looking at me. So I wouldn't let it filter in and even do the good of like filling me up. I would just block it all. So a big part of owning that in my photos, right, not just trying, because like if I look at my old photos, I'm like, oh, I'm still trying to hide it. I
Hmm.
was still trying to hide it. I didn't want it to come through the camera. I didn't want to
Right,
own
right.
it in my pictures. And so a big part of that is owning it and feeling comfortable, like even going out in the world and like expanding my field to be like, how are people perceiving me?
So, you didn't want the focus to just be about your looks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
But
I mean, were there like any other challenges that were, you said you hadn't done a photo shoot for 5+ years. So just, anxiety of stepping in front of the camera and those type of things, did you feel any of that as well? And just sort of bringing it together with these internal feelings that you had about beauty, right? Like you didn't want to be looked at a certain way for just being this attractive, gorgeous woman, but then also having other fears with the way you would be looked at by even me,
yeah.
right? Or whoever was turning the camera on you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really about owning. For that piece, I think that like the fear about getting in front of the camera, fully being myself, was more the fear of owning my sensuality as a woman and having that captured and seen and witnessed. Um, it's one thing to do it privately. It's a whole other thing to take that out into
Mhm.
the world and say, this is a part of me that I'm proud of, that I'm not afraid to show, that is actually really powerful part of me. That's the, part of my journey has been to step into the beauty and own that it's actually part of my power and my gifts. And that was the fear, is to finally show that on camera, and so the invitation that you kept giving me, that permission, both before we met and during the photo shoot. I mean, it took me a little bit of time to warm up and get into it and really feel free to be fully expressed, and to let that powerful goddess come through, right? Like I think every woman has a powerful goddess, but we all hide it, we're hiding it, we're afraid. And so it was really about like embodying the powerful goddess and being like, yeah,
Right.
this is okay to be captured on film. And in fact, it's good, it's healthy, there's nothing shameful about it. I was shamed a lot as a child for my sensuality. So that's been, a process of transformation. And this practice of taking pictures was incredibly empowering. Like I ended up going on a date, a couple nights later in that outfit. Like in the outfit. And literally like walking down the street and expanding that view again to be like, how am I being perceived? Like literally there was like, I was like, there's gonna be a car accident. Like this is
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
like people were stopping and staring and like turning kind of like, oh my God, yeah. So it was,
Oh
but I would
my
never have done
God.
that. I would never have worn that outfit out. I never would have enjoyed that experience even, right? Like you helped me take the shame out of it of like, it's it's okay for me to do this. I don't have to do this every day, but this is fun to
Right.
play with. Like, why not?
Right.
Like,
Oh my gosh. This makes me so happy. So let's talk a little bit about your getting ready for your session. And I would love to, just get some thoughts on what part was like most supportive for you. And I'm going to list a few of them and you can pick more than one, choice. So helping you with what to wear, just sort of the clothing options, connecting with me before the session, just kind of getting on the phone to, warm up and get to know each other type of a thing. The posing help during the session.
mhm.
And then the last part we haven't gotten to yet, but we can have another chat after that, is the actual, images that I can't wait to show them to you, but we'll have
Yeah.
to put that one on hold. So yeah, so these different
Okay.
areas,
So
which
helping choose the clothes, the pre kind of getting to know each other, and the
Mhm.
posing, right? Were the three. And is the question like which helped the most, or can I speak to?
You could speak to one or all of them, because I mean, I just want to get a sense of, it's kind of the complete experience also,
Yeah,
right?
so
Of
I would yeah, like
working together.
definitely integrate. I feel like all of them are integrated, right? And I'm so grateful that the two of us have known each other, through different things over the last few years of getting to know each other, where we've experienced each other enough to know where you've seen me in different parts of my life. You've seen me in safe containers where I've shown up, and
Mhm.
you have a deeper view of me than the rest of the world. So I'm really
Right.
grateful that that is part of our experience together. Because if you if you didn't have that, what you were able to do for me on our pre-phone calls and, just supporting me in the process, I don't know if it would have been as powerful because I really trusted you, and I trusted that you saw
I
you saw me, you'd seen me. You knew what I was capable of.
Yes, and I actually love that you mentioned that, and that part to me was interesting also because I could see the hold back,
Mhm.
and because of our, deeper relationship, I also understood the transformation that you were going through. And
Mhm.
that's why I felt like I knew what you were capable of in the
Yeah.
way you could actually show up and
Mhm.
then try to figure out a solution, which was almost like a stopgap solution, because it was really clear that you were not ready to jump into the full on,
Right.
experience.
Mhm.
But the interesting part to me was also the hiding that was happening to, you know, to sort of unlock that part of it. And that was just so beautiful to
And
journey through
I want to
that.
celebrate you for that because, you know, all good coaches have to meet their clients where they're at. And sometimes where they're at is their client needs a little bit of an ass kicking, you know, like,
Yes.
and that's how like the most gracious, kind ass kicking is exactly what I needed. You know, it was like, I felt the energy of like, I'm not going to disappoint you, Yvette, by letting you disappoint yourself.
Right.
Right? Like that's what I felt from you. For it was this energy. It wasn't like an external coming at me. It was like you were inside, you were connected to me inside to say like, I see a higher vision because I know it's in you. You know, let's bring it out. And it was just a powerful invitation for me to go deeper exactly where I was at in my life. So that was like, for me, that was incredible. And that's what I was saying. I was literally bragging about you yesterday, you know, on this mastermind call where I'm like, Alpina did an amazing job. She kicked my ass just like I needed. I got to take these gorgeous photos. I went out on a date wearing this sexy ass outfit, you know, that I would never have done in the past. And like, that's your magic. That was your magic to
Oh my
support me in
God.
that process.
Thank you. And it's really about getting your magic because I can see it. I sometimes feel that when you are on the outside, you can see things what sometimes people can't,
Yeah,
right? Because they're so close to whatever is happening in their life at that point in time. And
yeah.
that's where the ass kicking comes in because I'm like, I'm not giving up on you. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like I would have been disappointed in myself if I had settled for less than what I showed up as. And even okay, so you talk about the poses, even when I got there, right? Like I was wearing this thing that felt very bold and sensual for me, but I had like something to cover it up, you know, and getting to the point where I was, you know, getting more comfortable, getting embodied, having your support, having your continuous like drawing out, you know, in how you posed me. And then we're to the point where I'm like, let's take this blazer off, you know,
What?
and you know, and feeling that confidence to just be like, oh, like I honestly would have told you the night before that like that blazer wasn't coming off, you know,
Uh-huh.
like maybe peek a little bit, but there was no blazer coming off in my head. But then once I was there and we started moving and through the process and the poses and the and just the emotional support that you provided, you know, and again that deep commitment to holding the vision of what you knew was possible for me,
Right,
you know,
right.
that was that container of magic you create, you know, created for me at least, is that this is a safe place for you to be your most authentic self. You can explore this, you can be that, you know.
Absolutely. And I think, well, let's talk for a minute about your clothing because that was super interesting from where you started and where what you sent me to almost the 360
Totally.
of what you ended up at. I almost feel like I wish we could share a photo,
I
right?
know.
But
I'm like
which will
trying to remember.
happen.
Yeah.
But I want you to, yeah, I want you to speak into that part of it of, the clothing and what was going through your mind, even when you picked what you did, right? And I think it kind of connects with your story from the beginning,
Yeah.
where, the kind of the gaze and the sensuality. But
Mhm.
yeah, so just speak about the clothing ideas that you sent me and then the
Yeah.
rah rah room.
So I had this kind of concept, I think, when I first picked out outfits that I wanted, you know, the little bit of a contrast of one kind of a softer, more spiritual, flowy outfit, which I think ended up being pretty close. It just was upped a little bit. You know, we kind of upped the game. You gave me some good tips on how to make that look cleaner and more polished. So it stayed the same. But then there was this first version, which was like trying to capture a bit of my fierceness, my power, but I picked, you know, I had an idea of what I wanted it to feel like in my head, but I was pulling together stuff that was still, you know, very conservative and hidden, you know, but I'm thinking like, well, it's kind of it's black, it's sexy, you know, and it was it just wasn't what I wanted, but I didn't know where I wanted to go. And something about our call and you coaching me through with some, some ideas for outfits, showing me a little bit of like, okay, this is what's possible. And then some photos, from recent shoots. That's just kind of what gave me this little sparkle of like, where can I take it? Right. And so I go out to the stores and I've got this new vision. And I mean, I'm picking up everything, I'm like, okay, I don't know how this is going to come together, but like anything that looked like it might work, I just picked up a bunch of stuff, brought it back home, and I end up with these leather pants. Like, leather pants? I never would have bought leather pants, but I saw them and I was like, why not? Let's try them, and I bring them home and I have this lingerie piece that I'd worn in like a sexy selfie photo shoot once. And I feel it's really bold. It's super low cut. And as I was out shopping, a piece of jewelry spoke to me, which I've never had it. But it was a bold piece of jewelry. Like it was down all the way through my,
Oh, it
right
was
boobs. It was gorgeous. It was
gorgeous.
a
It was
statement.
gorgeous.
I
Yes, and that's what we
never.
talked about,
Yeah.
having you wear at least one piece of statement jewelry, whether you bought it or borrowed it or stole it, it didn't matter. But
And it's
just to have something. And isn't it amazing that sometimes, you end up buying these things? And we talked about some of the outfits where you can buy a bunch of things, and then if you decide you don't want to have them, you don't have to keep them. But so many clients end up keeping these outfits that they buy for the session
yeah.
because it ends up being this sort of a powerful exercise, and they see themselves in a different light once they have stepped into those outfits, right? So
Yes.
there's something that happens.
Yeah, it's like you finally embody it and
Mhm.
okay, so it's just like, it's just like women speak, and where we're like, we bring a woman up and she speaks and then we celebrate her so that she creates that internal safety, right? We rewire. It's the same with the photos. It's like, oh, I'm going to wear this bold thing. I'm going to expose myself. I'm going to make myself vulnerable, and then you get celebrated, right? Like all like the whole process, you're telling me how beautiful I am and how, you're just cheering me on. And so I'm just going like, oh, this is safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. And I'm just getting bigger and bigger, I'm letting more and more of it out. So that to me was the gift of the photography, was that just allowing me to flourish in this safe container to then be like, I can wear this. I can be this bold outside, to where 2 nights later, I'm wearing it out in public. Like, yeah.
Oh my God, that makes me so happy. So would you consider that as a breakthrough for you
Oh, yeah,
through this journey and this process of
absolutely.
doing the photography, or you can just speak to whatever you consider as a breakthrough for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, that was a huge breakthrough. I am 46 years old. I remember being 16 and loving this, I think it was Janet Jackson, or I can't remember, some popular artist at the time, in this black tank top, skinny fitting, gorgeous dress that I was like, I want to dress like her. Like, I just thought she was the most gorgeous woman in the world. I had every desire to show up like that. And I was like, there was just no way. I knew that in my family that was not acceptable, but I had that
Oh,
desire like deeply. Like I still remember the dress. In fact, I want to go get it now, and I remember my older cousin, having the dress similar and just being so jealous of her that her mom allowed her to, I think she actually snuck it in, but that she even owned it, that she could own this piece that made her look beautiful and sexy. And I think that I have never embodied that feeling until I met with you and had that outfit on, of feeling like that sexy, sensual being that I desired to be at 16.
oh my
Or like,
gosh,
what, 30 years later? 30 years later.
that's
Yeah.
beautiful. So now you have your alter ego.
I do. And it's like, and I feel like I'm even more confident to not in just that outfit, but like, how do I want to dress from now on? Like, feeling that there's times that I can totally go out like that and feel good and enjoy it, um, and show that it's safe. Like, there's a real reclaiming to my sensuality that happened through this process that I don't even think I have all the words for it yet. I don't even know how deep it's gone, but it was deep work that we did. And now I'm like, I can't wait to do this again and see where I go next time, Yeah, like now I
Oh,
know
that
what I
makes me so happy. And oh my God, do you remember even at the shoot, there were the cars going by and just sort of, I saw this liberated version of you towards the end of the shoot where you were like, well, don't crash or don't be.
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, from the beginning to the end of the shoot, you
Oh,
know, I just for me as somebody that was seeing you, I could see your transformation. And I don't know if, that's something you felt too when you
I,
started out, kind of covered up to just sort of,
yeah. I absolutely felt it because here's the thing, like, I know that part of me. I know that part of me, but she's private. She's only for me. She's only been exposed to me and like maybe a couple of partners a little tiny bit, right? And so it was a whole new world to show that part of me to someone else and to like step into it and then go out into the world. Even after we went out after, that night, like I felt I was carrying that energy still with me through, just being out in public. I could feel the energy still with me and still kind of like flowing out. It was really, yeah, no, and I'm like, okay, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like. I know who she is, but I've always kept her private. And so you helped me take her out. And now, like, to see the pictures, that's going to be a whole other, that's going to be its own transformational experience, is to own and witness the pictures and then to see where I take them from there.
oh my God, I cannot even wait. It's just going to be so exciting. And yes, so we'll have to set it up once you are incredibly patient, as a lot of my clients that wait patiently till their galleries are ready.
I
So
can't
thank you
wait.
for that.
Yeah.
So if you had to, you know, use like 3 words to describe working with me, what would they be?
First word that comes up is empowering, safety, and expansion. So, right. So empowering in the sense that like you've empowered me to step into more of my authentic self, right? Just through your coaching, through your vision, through the vision you hold for your clients. Safety, in that you create this container for that process of transformation to emerge with love and compassion and ass kicking when it's needed, but always with love and with that higher vision. And then expansion, right? Like, you help that you see the seed in the person, and then your magic, through the camera, behind the camera, before the camera, is to help that expansion to happen, right? Like, I had that little seed of like, okay, I have this idea of what I want to look like, but in order to expand into it, I needed that support. Like, yeah, I would have gotten there someday, but you helped propel that. There's something about how you coach and how you photograph that helps people expand further into their authentic self.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you so much. And I actually want to celebrate you as well, because when I, you know, coached you through actually stepping into that fear, you were actually able to receive it.
Mm.
You did it so beautifully. And I think that is really commendable, because sometimes we have a certain idea in our mind, and when things shift and change, it's really difficult to see that because on your end, you cannot see what I can see. And there is that fear of what is it going to be like? And is it going to be like what I actually even wanted?
Yeah.
And you were so brave into, you were open to listening to me. And
Mhm.
you were brave just with stepping into sort of the stopgap plan
Yeah.
that I recommended. So I just want to, celebrate you for
Yeah.
your openness to, trust me with that. That was like a huge piece because I think this relationship works so much on trust.
Mhm.
Because if you didn't trust me, it
Mhm.
would have gone a
Yeah.
different way, right?
True. Yeah.
Right. And then the other piece that I feel is often, and you've spoken to it through different pieces, but when people see the finished photos, often they just look at the photos and how pretty she is, and kind of connecting back to your feelings in the beginning, and not realizing that it is that inner work that needs to match the the outer transformation of how you're showing up. And
Yes.
that piece for me is really important to guide women through,
Mhm.
because otherwise the photographs are not going to look, like you,
Yeah.
right? That's the way I see it. And I don't know, how do you, now that you've gone through this, how do you feel about that piece? Because I think for photographers, it can be challenging at times where you see the photos and you just look at the photos and you don't look at the, or you don't always, and it's not like anybody's fault necessarily because people don't know. But it's so, for me, that's like a huge part of work that I do. And I really feel so passionate about that piece of it,
Yeah.
right? So I wonder if we can wrap up with, you speaking to that.
So like that internal work that happened, you mean? Yeah. Well, I guess the thing I want to say about that is that I think what's coming through is it's like it's so not a one-time thing, right? Like showing up and doing the work, going through this process, it is transformational in a way that you don't know is going to happen. You think like, oh, I'm signing up to do some pictures. I need new headshots. I want to update my
Exactly.
website, whatever. And you think like, and you can go through that process as many people
Mhm.
do, and they just show up and they show what they believe is their best version of themselves, and they get decent pictures, but they don't inspire them. They don't move them to the next level, right? They don't help in that transformational process of capturing. I mean, I believe we're all here to consistently grow and expand and find our gifts and shine those gifts, right? And um, when you go through the process with you, you're actually you're on that journey with you of expanding and showing. And so I feel like I'm not the same person I was, through this process. I'm not the same person. You have helped me expand to the next layer of who I'm supposed to be. And like that's, that, so I feel like that, like, okay, I've leveled up here, and this has just been such a beautiful gift to step into this next era of my life. And then, in a little while I'll be ready to go, like, okay, let's go deeper. Like, I'm ready for deeper. I'm ready to expand again. Help me, guide me through that process. See, the holding of the vision that you do is the magic for me, because I felt that from the first time, the way you were like, hey, you're not ready for this, but you're ready for this. I felt your vision. Not necessarily I couldn't see it, but I could feel it, and that's what helped me trust you. That I could
It's amazing.
feel your vision for me, and I could feel that that vision was coming in complete service to my highest good. Right?
Right.
It wasn't about your ego. It wasn't about, what
Hmm.
you would like to see out of it. It was, I see more in you than you're capable of seeing in yourself at this moment. Let me guide you to it.
Right. Right. Oh my God, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I feel that these images are going to be so powerful, for the rest of your life. And
Yeah,
that's really right. It's not like, I mean, the next time you want to go through a similar journey, it'll be so interesting to still look back at these, right? Because they capture you now in this moment.
so
And
true.
it's just, and you are just amazingly
Yeah.
beautiful. And I want to thank you so much for trusting me, letting me be a part of your story, your transformation, your expansion, which essentially is my word of the year, expansion.
Oh wow.
So I feel there's like what do you see it? Call it a
Synergy.
symbiotic
Yeah.
or synergy
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. I am thrilled and I can't wait to see the pictures. I'm like, it's going to be so great. So
Me
beautiful.
too. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop this unless you have any final thoughts. You're good. Okay.
No, I've just gratitude, just complete gratitude for going through the process with you and for you just being such a fierce advocate. Yeah, I think that was, for me, that process, seeing you step into that, like, I mean, I've heard you talk about it,
Yeah.
as a friend, I've never seen you embody it, being your client. That was fun to have that part of Alpina come through to me. I was like, oh, she's a badass. I love
Uh,
it. Yeah.
I know it's almost interesting because people don't always see that side of me, and that's where I feel like I can come alive, right? But I love that you kind of tapped into that. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing.